Today we're going to be talking about the psychology of love, right?
Right. There's this one principle, I guess, that's very important and very cool. I think it applies to a very large number of families. So sometimes people ask me during talks or in the comments under my videos if there's some kind of principle or rule that would work for 100% of young people who want to start a family, and it would work for everyone.
That's probably the top question in consultations, right?
Not the top one, but many people ask sometimes. And I always I tell people that there's no rule or principle that works for 100% of families because people are so different. But there are certain things, certain principles that will work 99.9% of the time. And one of those principles was formulated by St. Augustine, and it goes like this: when people have unity in the main things, freedom in the secondary things, but love in everything, then those relationships will be happy.
That's something to really think about and break down.
Once more, unity in the main things, freedom in the secondary things, but in everything, love. What does this mean in practice? Unity in the main things means that, so to speak, people's long-term bird's eye view of the family should align. What we'll be doing in life in general, who will be in life, how we'll raise children, where we'll live, in what country we'll live. Will we help other people, perform some kind of service or charitable work? How do we see ourselves? How will we handle financial and other issues? Who are we in this relationship? These main fundamental things, there must be unity between people in them. In secondary things, there should be freedom. This is when you understand that, well, I like to lie at home with a book, while my wife likes the theater. And I won't try to make her into a reader like me, someone who loves books and reading. And she won't try to make me into a theater critic, or even someone who's particularly interested in theater or stage performances. So she can allow me to have my own hobbies and interests, just as I allow hers to have hers.
A space of your own.
And my preference is, while she has her own life, her own leisure time. It doesn't mean that if she went to the theater with someone else, with a friend, it doesn't mean she doesn't love me. No, she just understands that I'm not very interested in that. And it's the same for me. I understand that if I'm doing something, like going to the gym, or if I want to go to some conference, or if I decide I want to learn English, and she says, well, I don't feel like right now that I want to learn something or go somewhere or do anything like that, then I'm not going to force her because
That's normal.
yeah, in strategic things, we look in the same direction. But in secondary things, we have a lot of freedom. And for example, when some movie comes out from, I don't know, Marvel or DC,
Or Avatar 2.
something interesting like that comes out, I understand that for Marvel or some action movie like that, it's better for me to go with my friend, because my wife doesn't really like those movies. On the other hand, that same Avatar, we just went to see it the other day.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was fine. The mailman is the killer.
Did you just spoil it or what?
Well, there's no mailman there, but it's funny. So when you understand that you give each other freedom and secondary things, everything will be okay. But the entire outline of your life is covered by love, affection, and acceptance of each other. That is, you don't try to remake the other person. You don't try to make the other person adapt to you. You don't try to somehow subtly manipulate them to set something up so that they somehow... All of that, it's not about love. It's more about repeated attempts and persistent efforts to in some way somehow control the other person, to dominate them, and to act almost like a puppet master pulling the strings behind the scenes. In these situations, the focus is not on cooperation, but rather on manipulation and control. It's a thankless task, and that's why. If you stick to this principle, that in the most important things you act as a united front, in secondary things you give each other freedom, but you try to cover 100% of your life with love, affection, and respect, everything will be fine. That's a great formula for most families.
And if we talk about this very phenomenon of love, where does it begin? Well, if we break it down, because some say there's attraction, then falling in love, then you've gotten used to each other, time has passed, and it's grown into love. Or how does it arams? Let's talk about that.
How do men fall in love?
right? You see her, you like her, that's it. You're in love. For girls, I don't know if it's the same or not.
Most men, as you correctly said, they love with their eyes.
You see her.
And that's true, yeah. When a man starts falling in love, actually, his process is such that visually everything, so to speak, clicked, right? And he thinks, she's cool.
I shed.
Go over. I should, yeah, do that. Well, that's not the falling in love stage yet, probably. It's more like getting acquainted, right?
It's attraction. You liked her.
Yeah, attraction.
Attraction.
It happens. It like if he takes the initiative and tries to get to know her.
Right.
But when they're already talking and he sees she's open to it, he's open to it, she's single, he's single. So they,
Everything just clicks.
yeah.
They're a good match.
When a man begins to start falling in love with someone, he will often at first carefully analyze and consider things like her physical figure and appearance, whether or not she's pretty, if she has a genuinely good sense of humor, or if she tends to laugh at my jokes. He might also notice the way she smiles or the way she reacts to his presence. And mostly he, well, looks at her and thinks if we're a good couple, or how things will be later. Our sex life, how good or not so good it's going to be. So, first, a man often analyzes the, so to speak, external facade of the whole thing, and he looks at the appearance. Women also sometimes start with this. Different people. But when their relationship starts to develop bit by bit,
Over time, yeah.
unfolding, then you have to understand that friendship between them. It's such a fundamental, basic thing that can be the glue that creates a real emotional bond. Because when a man chooses a woman based on her looks, and he thinks, well, I like her visually, and I'll try to make her a friend later, this strategy fails in most cases. Because those values that exist between friends, communication, trust, respect, the desire to hear,
Mutual help. Yeah.
the other person, interest in each other. They're either there or they're not. And that's why wiser men, it seems to me, first analyze whether this girl can be a great friend to me, whether we can build a truly open relationship where we trust each other. And only then, if he sees that this basic filter is passed, does he look at whether he likes her. Visually, whether she has the perfect figure he wanted, and so on and so forth. And that's why, if you look at friendship first and only then look at certain external parameters, I think this approach is much more successful than when you choose a very beautiful girl
And then it turned out.
and then you try to make her a good friend. Because many men, unfortunately, don't consider the fact that no matter how beautiful a girl is or how good she looks, after a few months of family life, you'll get used to her. You'll get used to how pretty she is. You'll get used to her figure. You'll get used to everything that's external. But you'll be living with her character, her habits, her kindness, or the lack thereof, with all her personality traits, both the good and the bad. And as they say in Russian, some have character traits, while others have literal devils in their character. So, and
Well, you need to know all this beforehand, because otherwise,
yes, and that's why. If you only look at the surface level, then of course you might face a serious disappointment later on. And that's why I'd start with friendship first, and then building upon that friendship. We look for a certain spark, whether the person ignites something in us, so to speak, visually, sexually, and in all those ways.
and ultimately, that's how we get a strong, lasting love.
Well,
That's how it should be. Heart should be. But even if, everything was built correctly, there are moments, as time goes by. And then someone says, I feel like it's over. He doesn't love me anymore. Well, that's it. I just don't feel his love anymore. So, what is this? Has the love just vanished? Or how would you call it? Or is it just something, well, she's just imagining things? Or is the problem with him? What's the issue?
actually, I think that love rarely just disappears into thin air. It's like, it's not a coin that was somewhere in your wallet and just slipped out somewhere.
Fell out. Yeah, yeah.
So it's a bit more complex than that. If we look at the Ukrainian language, there are two such words, right? Kochania and lubov, which are more or less similar in meaning. They have a, well, synonymous meaning, very similar. But if we look at, for example, the Greek language, those concepts are a bit broader there. Yeah.
There was 3.
4, actually.
4 even.
Yes. There's what's called, so to speak, parental love, where there's that kind of nurturing and care. It's called storge. Those are parental relationships, a parent's love for a child. There's the loss. That's the love between friends. Yes, like close friends. There's eros. That's erotic love, everything related to sex and passion. And there's agape, which is, so to speak, unconditional sacrificial love, that kind of selfless devotion. And it happens that in a marriage, a woman might not feel loved by her husband because she, for example, needs that philos kind of love, like a friendship. Maybe she needs to spend time together. She needs,
To do things together.
yes, for him to help her out, to listen to her, to take care of the kids, do homework with them, or help her around the house, things like that. And she like needs that kind of attitude where, well, friends help each other out, they have each other's back. But for him, it's only eros. I mean, he only has that passionate love where he wants to hug her, kiss her, get in bed.
Well, that's already a certain dissonance.
And for him, he thinks love is more like eros, more like erotic love, while she sees love more as friendship and support. And sometimes it happens that a partner needs love like agape, which is, well, sacrificial love, where you can take on problems, flaws, shortcomings, some serious disappointments or whatever. You can cover them with your love. And through your love, you can do, well, some serious difficult things for the sake of your person. So well, it's like those romantic feats or everyday things where you help out a lot. So, agape is that unconditional, sacrificial love when someone takes care of someone else for a while. For example, a husband gets into a car accident and both his legs are broken, and he has to stay in bed for 4 or 5 months. Will he be, so to speak, a good lover for her during that time? Of course not. Will he be a good friend to her during that time? Probably not either. Can he show her this? Storage love, like parental love, where he takes care of her? No, either.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is exactly where agape love is needed from her, yeah? Where she takes care of him and she realizes, I'm not getting. Right now, it's not a 50-50 relationship. I'm gonna cook for him now, I'll take care of him, I'll do everything. Go to doctors, the pharmacy, wherever. And I'll do everything so that he can recover over those 6 months and get back to a normal life. That's exactly where love is needed. And that's why in different periods of life, in different circumstances, a different, so to speak, type of love will be successful.
But also, if we recall, well, besides these global types of love, there are also love languages. Well, I've read about them specifically. I think you've also read this book, and many people, our viewers and listeners, might have read it too. The 5 Love Languages. And you also need to, well, as far as I remember, know what your language is, what her language is, and somehow will communicate in that regard.
Yeah. Moreover, I often come across the fact that people come for an individual family consultation, we start talking, and at some point I might ask the girl a question. I say, "What's your husband's love language?" She says, "Oh, I haven't thought about that." I say, "Did you, well, read the book?" She says, "No, I read it. I understand mine is gifts, but what his is, I haven't really thought about it. Maybe touch, maybe touch." Well, she's guessing. I ask the husband, I say, "And how is it for you in general?" Well, he says, "For me, I think mine is quality time. And for her, I think she likes it when I tell her." Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah, she says, "No, I don't like that at all."
There's, a disconnect there.
And they like, they really, really like. I mean, honestly, they just like.
Each understood it differently.
Both read this book, but they just don't, well, they don't practice it. So it's not enough to just know these love languages. You have to, well, actually decode your partner's love language. Because for those who maybe haven't read the book, there are 5 primary languages of love. There's the situation where people spend quality time together. There's the situation of gifts, when we give each other something. There's the situation where we touch each other, that's touch and physical contact. There's words of affirmation, that's when a person praises another person. And there's acts of service, when for the sake of another person.
Helping out.
Yeah, we do certain things. And when you understand your partner's language, you can give them exactly what they need in the relationship. Because very often it happens that a woman like shouts. She says, I do everything for you. I do this, I watch the kids, I keep the house in order. When you ask me for help with something, I always help you. So she's explaining how much she does for him and how much she cares. But for example, if he needs words of affirmation,
Well, yeah, that's nice.
but she's constantly doing acts of service. She's constantly caring for him, for everyone, and sacrificing her time, but doesn't say those words to him like, you're doing great, you're the best, I'm proud of you, I respect you. My friends' husbands aren't nearly as great as you are to me. So if she doesn't sincerely say such words to him, then of course he receives a lot from her and he sees that she works, that she does this, and the kids are fed, everything's okay.
She's caring for him, so to speak.
But as a man, he's in a desert and he has no water. I mean, he understands that a lot is happening in this desert. There's a lot of sand,
There's a lot there.
there's a palm tree, yeah. There's even some frog croaking somewhere. There's a snake crawling through this desert, but the water he needs isn't there. And likewise, the woman, she thinks, for example, I don't understand. I care for him so much. Doesn't he want to care for me? Because for her, for example, this love language is acts of service. And she thinks, why won't he help me? Doesn't he see how tired I get with the kids? How tired I get with the chores? I even work at a job for half the day in the morning. Doesn't he want to help me? But he's constantly bringing her gifts, and he's obsessed. He goes into a store, gets a chocolate bar or something else, or then he made something at work in the workshop with his own hands and brought it. She looks at it like, well, a gift is a gift.
Well, that's cool, yeah.
She put it down, yeah, and that's it. So it's not her language. And that's exactly why you need to understand not just your own language and how you want to care for your partner, right? And how you want to care for your partner, right? So you need to understand what his language is and give him exactly that. Because people break up and divorce not when they don't put in the effort or when they don't try. People break up when they don't give each other exactly what the other person needs. Because it happens that people say, I gave him everything. I did everything to save this relationship.
That's possible, yeah.
But he still went to a mistress. If you gave him what he actually needs as a man, for example, respect or words of support or quality time together or something else, he might not have gone anywhere. We're not justifying it when a man goes to a mistress. There can be no excuse for that. We're not saying there are reasons, like he left because of the woman, and we're justifying or defending him. No, it's, well, a lost cause. If a man does that, it's over. The point here is that families don't fall apart and crumble when each partner gets what they need. And those are very different things. And that's why you need to decode your own love language and learn to speak your partner's love language.
Interesting. You don't have to give everything. You just have to give what's actually needed.
Yeah.
If maybe to wrap up with this, what would you advise if, let's say, as of today, I honestly, to be completely honest, I don't really feel like I have strong feelings for my partner.
Love, right?
Like love somehow, yeah, I don't want to, help him. Well, he's great, but nothing is flickering inside. Go to a psychologist. I don't know what to do.
It depends. Look, well, very. Many people have this state when they've lived together for a while. At first, they had emotions, novelty, unpredictability.
Right, yeah, the spark.
And then 3, 4, 5 years later, it's different for everyone. Some more, some less. There are moments when the relationship, love, and passion, they kind of land like a plane.
Faded, yeah.
Yeah, and people already realize that something else is keeping them together, but not love anymore. Kids, property issues, habit, fear that I won't find someone better or that it'll only get worse. And who will, a woman thinks, who will love me at 38 when I already have 2 kids and a failed marriage or something? There are different moments, and a woman thinks, I don't feel anything for him anymore. He doesn't feel anything for me. We're just roommates. Actually, you can change this picture with one very powerful principle.
Yeah.
Acts of love, they lead to feelings of love. So when a woman sits and waits for a moment when my husband changes and starts doing something for me, loving me somehow, giving me time, putting in effort, giving gifts, romance, she might never see it. She doesn't love him and he doesn't love her. But if a woman understands that acts of love lead to feelings of love, she can, without expecting it from him, start doing it herself. and she can try to give her partner what he needs and take care of him in the way that he wants to be cared for. That is, if the husband wants them to spend time together, to have quality time together, give him that. If he needs words of support, okay. If he responds to some gifts, okay, try that. If he needs a helping hand somewhere, be that hand, be that helper. And when she does this, when she puts in her own effort for the sake of another person, those feelings will return to her. Because we cannot feel negatively toward a person for whom we are doing a good deed.
Interesting. That works. Listen.
And that's why when we start doing acts of love for another person, we develop a feeling of love. And what about the husband side, when he hasn't felt anything for his wife for a long time either? He also thinks that everything has seemingly died. And then it's like she starts showing him attention, respect, love, support, something else, help. He looks and thinks, oh, it's like a second wind has opened in our relationship. And he also starts doing acts of love.
Yes, now it's going both ways.
And she starts feeling it too. So, if a husband feels nothing at all for his wife today, he can also start doing acts of love. And acts of love, they will lead to him developing a feeling of love. Because people wait like that and they think, well, I should feel something. I should feel like back then. I remember it was like that. I see him. He's like that. There was such inspiration then. It was so good then.
Yeah, there has to be a moment, a spark.
And it all just went somewhere. But in reality, those emotions that were there at first, they've already, well, faded a bit. But today, deeds of love and acts of love, they will lead to this feeling being deeper, more stable, calmer. Maybe there won't be those emotional roller coasters anymore. Everything will be simpler there. But this love, it's already sincere, real, and long term. And that's why when we start doing acts of love for another person, we develop a feeling of love. And what about the husband side, when he hasn't felt anything for his wife for a long time either? Whether the husband starts doing it or the wife starts doing it, a family can be made loving toward each other again.
Happy.
Yes.
Great. We wish you love.